Virginia and call Matt Strickland up, take him to dinner, and get this thing resolved. They're not going to do either of those. This is amazing, though. If you really think about this, Neil McCabe, one guy, Matt Strickland, one guy that you pissed off for no reason is going to cost you a shot at the presidency. One guy in Virginia, a restaurant owner. Crazy. Go to thevirginiastar.com, thevirginiastar.com. Neil, thanks for
Reports from inside the Biden inner circle say the president has a problem saying no to his son's Hunter, and that's a real problem for him.
And inside the Trump camp, the president is on a high, as are his poll numbers. So, what's next for the Trump campaign?
And residents of Albuquerque, New Mexico are furious after the governor there takes away their right to carry concealed weapons. Two of the strongest voices fighting for their Second Amendment rights in the state are going to be with us live.
And why does Biden's strong economy feel so bad to most Americans? Well, I don't know, maybe because it's not strong and is bad? Not a good sign when CNN says Americans don't feel good about a Biden economy. That story ahead.
And a moment of faith turns into a moment of discovery. The miraculous site where Jesus healed a blind man has reportedly been uncovered. More proof that Christ walked among us. That story and more as American Sunrise starts right now.
We've got your back as you start your day.
Articulate what the majority of Americans feel today, and I really appreciate that you do.
Y'all tell the
the truth. You guys are our voice. We watch every morning while getting ready for work.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Dr. Gina.
And I'm Miranda Khan, and we're coming to you live from West Palm Beach. Hope your Tuesday morning is off to a good start. And someone else, I lost my voice there. Someone else happens early in the morning. Joining us also live in West Palm Beach, the one, the only, Terrance Bates.
Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Want to make sure I don't lose my voice either. Good morning, ladies. How are you?
Girl, wonderful.
Good. We're so happy you're here. We feel like, the world is just almost complete. If we had David Brody in studio, everything would be perfect.
Right?
Absolutely. I'm missing you, brother David.
Yeah, speaking of which, joining us live per DC, usual.
We need you to come visit,
ladies.
David.
Terrance, ladies, I want to be there. Thank you for the invitation, by the way. Of course, I know it's always an invitation. I was wondering if there was a party in West Palm and I wasn't invited. No, you are on the record saying that I'm invited to the party in West Palm, and so I'm excited about that. Meanwhile, I'm up in the suburbs last night getting Red Lobster, womp womp. And so let me just say, those cheddar biscuits, can I just say those cheddar biscuits, they're from the devil. That's all I have to say. They went to the pit of my stomach as well. All right, Terrance Bates, you're not in Denver. You're in West Palm Beach. You're not body surfing, though you look marvelous. By the way, you've got headlines.
Well, thank you, sir. Good morning to you, David. Good morning to those of you at home. And, of course, a special good morning to those of you in our Getter chat. 9/11 families are still outraged about President Biden's decision not to honor victims of the terror attacks at any of the attack sites. Adding to their frustration is the White House's reported excuse that since it's been 22 years since the deadly attacks, there was no point in the president visiting. Instead, Mr. Biden delivered remarks at a military base in Alaska on Monday. During those remarks, the 80-year-old also claimed to have been at Ground Zero the day after the 9/11 attacks. Okay. Well, in his 2007 autobiography, Mr. Biden wrote that he was back at work in Washington, D.C. the day after those attacks. There is even video that you're looking at here showing him on the Senate floor. The U.S. House is back at work this morning, and Speaker Kevin McCarthy is reportedly prepared to launch an impeachment inquiry against President Biden. He's set to meet with House Judiciary Chairman Jim Jordan and House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer in a closed-door meeting on Thursday. McCarthy believes an impeachment inquiry is the next step following a slew of investigations into the current president. While McCarthy can call for an impeachment inquiry, he'll have to have 218 House Republicans on board and ready to vote to authorize that inquiry. Notably, Republican Colorado Representative Ken Buck and Nebraska Representative Don Bacon have been skeptical. There's a lot at stake here for McCarthy, as prominent Republican Matt Gaetz is threatening to push for McCarthy's removal if he doesn't move forward with an inquiry. And another day, another motion by President Trump and his lawyers. This time, the 45th president is asking that U.S. District Judge Tanya Chutkan be removed from presiding over the federal case out of Washington, D.C. The Trump legal team argues that Chutkan has made statements about the happenings of January 6, which put her impartiality in question. Monday's court filing cites a remark from the judge during sentencing for a J6 defendant, during which she said the accused was motivated by President Trump and, quote, blind loyalty to one person who, by the way, remains free to this day. That's a quick check of your headlines. I'll, of course, have more headlines coming your way momentarily, but now I think it's time for a word from the Bible.
Absolutely, Terrance. Thank you so much for those headlines. Today's Bible verse from Jesus Calling goes like this. My peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. Not as the world gives do I give to you. Let not your heart be troubled, neither let it be afraid. Those words are from John 14:27, an amazing, perfect, and consistent reminder as we go ahead and traverse this terrain in front of us as we approach this election year even. All right, Terrance, what else do you have up your sleeve this morning? We're just wondering.
Well, I've got an ace of spades here, and that would be this headline that you can chew on. Biden allies say the president's inability to say no to Hunter caused avoidable political distractions. According to the report, some Biden allies believe that his loyalty to his son, inviting him to state dinners, flying with him on board Marine One, and even standing on the White House balcony with him has resulted in major political distractions. All of this, as special counsel David Weiss, is expected to file new indictments against Hunter in the next couple of weeks. The charges are expected to include a federal felony gun charge for lying on a federal form when purchasing a firearm back in 2018. And that's why we're bringing in friend of the show and Real America's Voice contributor Kash Patel to tap into his expertise. Apart from working at the high levels of the Trump administration, he also served as a prosecutor in the Department of Justice. Kash is also the author of the new book, Government Gangsters, The Deep State, The Truth, and the Battle for Our Democracy. David Brody also joining us for this interview. Kash, welcome. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, y'all. Thanks for having me on the show.
Before we get to talking about Hunter Biden, I want to talk a little bit about this latest news involving Kevin McCarthy saying that he's going to start an impeachment inquiry. Put that into perspective for us. How optimistic are you that this is going to come to fruition?
Look, I'm probably in the minority on this one. I understand the political desire to impeach Joe Biden for the many crimes you just laid out in 30 seconds and then some. But I think what the American electorate is owed from Congress is the actual evidence of corruption from within our government. And that's being architected by individuals like Merrick Garland, the Attorney General, and Chris Wray. And I believe if the Congress actually enforced the subpoenas they have on documents to those individuals, who are currently committing felonies, by the way, by violating those subpoenas and not producing documents, they need to be held in contempt of Congress first before any impeachment proceedings of Joe Biden, so that the American public is armed with the knowledge they need at the elections about the misgivings and criminal activities of a Joe Biden.
But Kash, let me push back a little bit on that and basically wonder about, can't you walk and chew gum at the same time? I mean, in other words, why couldn't McCarthy start this impeachment inquiry? Because in essence, they're trying to get these bank records, which we hear about smoking gun after smoking gun, but this would be the ultimate smoking gun to actually tie Joe Biden somehow, some way to one of these bank accounts, one of these receipts. So in essence, that would be the ball game there for Biden at that point.
No, look, you're absolutely right. If Congress could impeach these three individuals together, or at least hold contempt of Congress referrals for Wray and Garland while impeaching Biden, that would be the ultimate trifecta. And I know a lot of folks over there in Congress are working overtime. But as you noted in your opening, you need 218 Republicans just to get one impeachment off the ground. And there are a couple of naysayers still out there in the Republican caucus. So I just don't know if Congress has what it needs to get even one of these started up and running.
Kash, I don't want to beat a dead horse or an 80-year-old president, but it is important to note that an inquiry is just that, an inquiry, an investigation. It's not an impeachment.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. The way it works is the impeachment is the bringing of formal charges. It's the equivalent of an indictment. It doesn't have any evidentiary value whatsoever. But what the win is for the American people, if it is brought successfully, and the witnesses have to come in and testify before the Senate and the House. They have to come in and produce documentation. And we're talking about everybody, possibly Joe Biden, Hunter Biden, and scores of other people. Now, is the House prepared to fight the White House, who is undoubtedly going to stonewall them, along with the DOJ and the FBI? They have to be willing to go full on this one. Otherwise, they'll fall short of the mark of their own impeachment if they don't hold Congress's, DOJ and FBI and the White House to the fire to get the documents. It's going to be a tough road.
So Kash, let me turn now to this idea that Joe Biden can't say no to his son Hunter. It's been reported out there. The New York Times did a big story on it as well. And it's interesting because inside that story, the New York Times is actually reporting that private friends of Biden are saying that he just can't say no to Hunter, and yet when it comes to his business dealings specifically, but yet Biden has been telling us all along that he never talks to Hunter Biden about his business dealings. And yet this is the type of reporting we get from the liberal media, the New York Times, literally admitting that he's had conversations clearly with Hunter about business dealings because he can't say no, and yet they won't connect the dots. It's the not the connect the dots strategy by the liberal media here.
No, you're right. And look, and Joe Biden will shout back saying, I love my son. We're not questioning his love for his son or his family. That's not what this is about. That's a political distraction. And when the New York Times comes front and center and says Joe Biden does not have the ability to say no and is causing political and criminal harm, that means the Democratic institution, the machine, is moving to get Joe Biden out of the way, which is another reason why I think this impeachment inquiry by the Republicans is doing the dirty work for the Democratic Party. They're not stupid. they don't want him to run either. And they are now looking for an exit strategy when you have people like New York Times and the Washington Post saying how politically damaging it is to Joe Biden when he's protecting the criminal conduct of himself and his son and his family.
Cash, you are a former prosecutor, so this is right down your alley. David Weiss, the special prosecutor looking into Hunter Biden, has said that he is going to levy a new indictment against Hunter Biden. What do you think? Is this really going to come to fruition? And beyond that, are these charges going to actually have some teeth, and will there be some real merit in these new charges that we're expecting?
Well, there should, but we are working in a two-tier system of justice, so there's no guarantee on what this DOJ is going to do. Pretrial diversion, look, the rule is very simple. When a defendant, any defendant, rejects a plea deal, the DOJ brings the full boat of charges the next day. That's it. I've been on both sides of that equation as a public defender and a federal prosecutor. There is no deviation. You are afforded a right to a plea deal. You are also afforded your right to a jury trial. And when you reject a deal in pretrial diversion, you should be brought up on entire felony charges, on entire felony tax fraud charges, and all the underlying charges that you received a pass on because of your quote-unquote plea deal. Now, will that come to fruition? I don't know, since David Weiss is already out there lying to the world, saying he has to bring this charge because of speedy trial. No, sir, speedy trial is for the defense. You are covering for your corrupt conduct of letting the statute of limitations about to expire. That's what you're setting the landscape for. These indictments, it's easy to go to a grand jury and get these indictment stuff. Why he's taking weeks is inexcusable.
Kash Patel, we appreciate it. We'll have to leave the conversation there. As always, thanks so much for being here. Still ahead, the National Archives is a self-proclaimed nonpartisan agency. It's also the same organization that sparked President Trump's first indictment. But a new report out saying the agency actually leans left. And then later, an archaeological find of epic proportions as researchers claim they have found the site where Jesus healed a blind man. Those stories ahead as American Sunrise continues.
We need to bring attention to something. Just yesterday, it was announced that a sixth inmate in 6 weeks at Fulton County Jail has passed away. His name was Chandre Delmore. He was 24 years old. He'd been sitting in Fulton County Jail since April 1st, and he was sitting there simply because he could not afford 10% of a $2,500 bond. That's $250. I think his life was worth way more than that. Where is Black Lives Matter on this? Where's Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton on this? But most importantly, where's Governor Kemp on this? Where's District Attorney Fannie Willis? And where's the sheriff on this? Why aren't people solving this problem and fixing that jail?
And welcome back to American Sunrise. Of course, that was Trump co-defendant Harrison Floyd, the only black man arrested along with President Trump and the only Trump co-defendant to sit for days in the horrendous Fulton County Jail, where you just heard 6 inmates have died in the past 6 weeks.
That's right, Miranda. Harrison Floyd, along with Jack Brewer Foundation, teaming up to give financial assistance to inmates in the Fulton County Jail who cannot afford bail but are incarcerated for non-violent crimes. The Fulton County DA is obsessed with targeting Trump as people drop dead in the county jail. And this is a travesty. And of course, you know, all of the leftist television corporate media, right, who talk all the time about racial issues in divisive ways, right? Why aren't they talking about this, Terrance?
And I would argue this isn't a racial issue. This is an infrastructure issue. This is a
But they would make it a racial issue.
They would, but it's not. That's my point. It's not. This is an issue of people in the first world in this country who are in deplorable conditions based on whether they commit a crime or not, until they have their day in court, and even leading up to their day in court. In this country, there should be and there is an expectation that at least you're living and being held in humane conditions. And that's apparently not the case in Fulton County, Georgia.
Right.
And kudos to the people who are stepping up and saying, you know what, we're going to shed light on what's happening there to so many people. And the reality is there is a good number of people in the Fulton County Jail, given the demographics of Fulton County, who are black. But that's, again, secondary. The issue is these people are having to be held in conditions that are subhuman, that are dangerous and deadly now. Like that's not just making something bigger than it is. 6 people have died.
Yes.
These conditions are deadly.
And the race baiters don't care, right, David?
Well, that's right. And here's the other problem. The DOJ is, and I'll put this in air quote, involved. They started an actual investigation into the Fulton County jail conditions back in July. That was a couple months ago. And now we wait, tick, 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 as to what they're going to do exactly. And you would think in a politically charged environment, the DOJ most likely will just sit on their hands and do nothing, because if they, not indict, but if they come to any sort of serious conclusion about the Fulton County jail during the Fonnie Willis situation down there, and if they're going to basically call out certain members down in Fulton County that may have been involved with Trump, it's just going to get very political. So my guess is the DOJ will wait for a while now and take their investigation at least over a year. I don't see it happening anytime soon.
Someone should sue them if they do wait. There needs to be a lawsuit that will hopefully force their hand.
Yeah.
I hope so.
Exactly.
Yeah, for ssure. All right. Well, up next, we've got a lot more in American Sunrise, including we're going to talk about Joe Biden. That's right. And his friends, by the way, over at the MSDNC, they're calling out President Trump again, saying now that President Trump, not Sleepy Joe Biden, is, quote, not all there. A deep dive into that funny farm over at that other network next as American Sunrise continues.
This news break is brought to you by AMAC, Association of Mature American Citizens.
And welcome back to American Sunrise on this Tuesday. Again, hope your morning is off to a pleasant start. Hopefully you have some Beard Vet coffee. I know you have
Every time
your
you
coffee.
say that, I think you're saying beer until you get to the
I'm
vet.
sorry. But they're both equally good to you, I know in your eyes.
I'm on artillery tea this morning, but I will
okay.
probably shift over to beer coffee soon.
Just as long as it's Beard Vet and not the other.
And not beer.
Yes.
Not
All
beer.
right.
Definitely never in the morning. All right,
Yeah.
let's get to some headlines sponsored by AMAC.
The Association of Mature American Citizens is the conservative voice for Americans 50 and older. AMAC's fighting for the values that you hold dear. Join today. Together, we can write the course of America.
Now that I'm officially a mature American citizen, I kind of feel some kind of way that I get thrust between these AMAC headlines. Feel some kind of way about that. Just joking. All right, let's get to it, guys. States around the country are investigating Medicaid rolls and even purging them. In the last 4 months, Texas has kicked more than 500,000 people off of Medicaid. That, by the way, is according to whistleblowers at the Texas Department of Health and Human Services. But now, lawmakers are demanding that the federal government conduct an investigation to ensure that the state is complying with federal rules. A reported 81% of Texas Medicaid patients who tried to navigate the reevaluation process for the federal health insurance plan were denied. In the meantime, Arkansas removed more than 72,000 Medicaid recipients as part of disenrollment following the end of the pandemic. The state says it is reviewing its Medicaid rolls as a matter of responsible resource allocation. 5 Americans detained in Iran are reportedly out of prison and under house arrest this morning as the Biden administration has agreed to a prisoner swap and the release of $6 billion in frozen Iranian money. Under the agreement, the 5 Americans will be released in return for 5 unnamed Iranian citizens who are currently held here in the U.S. Republicans are criticizing the deal, though, saying the waiver of the $6 billion will boost Iran's economy, which is a particular concern given Iran's growing nuclear threat and its threat to U.S. allies in the Middle East. Taking to X, Iowa Senator Chuck Grassley writing, quote, "It's ridiculous for U.S. to be blackmailed into paying $5 or $6 billion for hostages, which will help indirectly finance the #1 foreign policy of Iran, which is terrorism." North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has reportedly arrived in Moscow, Russia, posing the latest threat to the United States. Kim is in Russia for a meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin. The leaders are expected to offer each other increased support amid escalating tension with the West. Kim will reportedly also seek Russian economic aid and military technology in exchange for giving Russia weapons to use in its war with Ukraine. Russia is looking to replenish its weapons arsenal, which has been depleted during the more than year-long war. That's going to do for your headlines. Ladies, I see that you guys both really love South Florida, and I get it now. I feel like I'm on vacation here, so if I stroll in here like at 9, 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, it's because I thought I was on vacation, not at work. Just going to put it out there.
We'll see what Zen Master has to say about that, Terrance.
Okay. See, why are you bringing in the boss now? Why are you bringing in the boss? He's supposed to stay between us. He might still be sleeping. I'm hoping, David, that he's not watching this, and you understand. I mean, yeah, you're in the swamp, but if you had a chance to come down here, David, I suspect you would also be in vacation mode.
Oh, 100%. I would never go back. Literally. My family would be like, where'd he go? No, I would bring my family. Obviously, I'd bring my family. All right. Look, we have some news to get to, and it involves Joe Biden, sadly. His mental health, we know, is just, sadly, it's atrocious. That is clear. But in the alternate universe of MSDNC and the folks at Morning Joe, they think it's Donald Trump, not Joe Biden, that has the mental health issue. I kid you not. And here's the proof. Have a look.
Now, no matter what the guy does, they're going to have these screaming headlines saying that he's out of it and crazy when it's just the opposite. And then you got, then you got Donald Trump howling at the moon saying crazy stuff every day. It's like, I don't know. I talked to a lot of people over the past week or so. They're not thrilled about either side, but it's not like they're going Biden's crazy and Trump is all there. It's just kind of the opposite.
I can't deal with these people at all. There's the headline. This is Newsbusters saying, nice try, Morning Joe. Show argues that Trump, not Biden, is not all there. You know who's not all there? Joe Scarborough and the bobblehead Mika Brzezinski, who just keeps shaking her head like, go ahead, tell me more, Joe, tell me more, tell me more. Joining me now is Adam Weiss, media relations and PR guru. Adam, before we get to this, how did it feel to be called a PR guru? You are a guru. You've made it, Adam Weiss.
Well, I've elevated. Thank you for elevating me to guru status. That means I made it somewhere in my life, and I'm glad it took this long, but I made the guru status.
Well, the left wants to basically elevate Donald Trump to Looney Tune status. So tell me a little bit about what the left is trying to do to Donald Trump, because this is what they do. They have a latte sipping, as we've talked about before, echo chamber, and they try to do the Gang of 500, all the crazies in the media, and create a false narrative. This is what they do, and they do it well, let's be honest.
Well, let's say he's not on, they're all on defense right now because Joe Biden can't be on offense. That's the worst thing in politics, just like in sports. You want a team or a combat sport to always be on offense. That makes it more exciting. You notice MSDNC is always on the defense when it comes to Joe Biden. So that's proof in the pudding that he's not all there right now. And, I was there when Trump, it was November 2nd, but the Sunday night before Election Day. And I was sitting on an airport, private airport. It was like 12:30 at night. I think it was his first stop of the day when he flew in. He did a speech, an hour-long speech, and I turned around and there were thousands of people there, Hispanics, business owners, Democrats all from New York. And I said, he's never going to lose this election. This is unbelievable. What kind of human has the ability to force stop of the night, and he's still doing well and making a major speech? It was incredible the amount of energy this guy had. I think he was 75 at the time.
Let me not bury the lead. Does your dog in the background, I'm assuming anti-Biden? Have you polled your dog? Because the dog clearly is vociferous on this issue.
Yeah, somehow he jumped up. He knew I was there. So the moment we were jumping onto this hit, he just started roughing. He's usually better than this. Sammy's usually better than this, but I don't know what he's irritated at right now.
That's all right. Look, on American Sunrise, everybody's welcome, including dogs. Dr. Gina knows that the best. Of course, we have Fun Dog Friday. I don't know, is that what it's called? It's not called Fun Dog Friday. Oh, I like that. Are you yelling at your dog? That's classic. I like that. Hey, Adam, let me ask you a little bit about this Wall Street Journal poll. 49%. Apparently, according to this Wall Street Journal poll, say Trump is mentally not healthy or whatever, however they term it exactly. And see, this is the problem from a PR standpoint. I'm curious to get your take because it's the Wall Street Journal who are labeled conservative, air quote, Fox News, all these folks that are soft conservative, if that, and they start to peddle out this stuff that can help at DeSantis or other candidates. But the point is that they're in a way in on it as well.
100%. I mean, I don't know a candidate out there had more energy than Trump. He's on the offense all the time. And, during his presidency, they took pot shots of it all the time. I remember the big op-eds. There were 100 mental health professionals writing an op-ed about his mental acuity. And meanwhile, he was wall to wall, never stopped, morning, noon, and night. The guy, he's known for not sleeping. He's up tweeting. I mean, he would break the news cycle, David, at 5 a.m. because he'd throw out a tweet. I mean, we lived in a new era during the Trump presidency. People would be watching his Twitter 5:30, 6 a.m, he'd throw out a tweet because we know everything the president said is newsworthy. We're lucky if Joe Biden had a cup of coffee by 11 a.m. So Trump is definitely all there. And when he made one little slip at West Point because it was slippery, he was holding a trail. Oh, that was big news, too. Meanwhile, Joe Biden's sliding off airports, the steps. He can't stand still. He's wandering off in the White House. He's wandering off during Jill's speech. And we don't have these big, mental health experts coming on talking about Joe Biden. So there's one set of rules for Trump, one set of rules for Biden. And it's really typical way the media plays this.
Adam Weiss, really appreciate your time. And what's your dog's name, by the way? Because we want to, I don't know, say hi, send a biscuit. I don't know. What?
Sammy. Come here. Everybody wants to say hi to you. Sammy.
Can we see the dog?
Sammy,
can you bring the dog up on? Please. Oh, there goes Adam Weiss. All right. Don't worry. We got 34 seconds. And so let's see. What's the dog's name?
Sammy. Sammy, now you're quiet.
Tammy.
Now you
Tammy,
see the whole
just
set.
looking for some airtime. Tammy looking for airtime. All right, Tammy, hang in there.
Sammy.
Biden will. Sammy, sorry. Tammy. Thank you, Adam. Appreciate it. Sammy and Adam Weiss here on American Sunrise. It doesn't get any better. All right, when we come back, the National Archives My goodness gracious, what are they all about? We're going to talk about the nonpartisan agency that sparked President Trump's first indictment, but shows that actually lean left. It's not shocking. We're right back.
Now for a look at our health and wellness. Here's a headline we might all want to heed. Take a look here. While Biden is busy pushing Americans to get their fall shots, many medical and legal minds are pushing back. Looky here. Florida's Surgeon General went on an anti-jab rant against the new COVID booster during a press conference with Ron DeSantis. Listen.
The pharma companies have been making hundreds of millions of dollars on vaccines, not just from Americans, but around the world. Why in the world should the taxpayers be paying for any more vaccines? If anything, I think the pharma companies are worried they may not be able to recoup their investment if not enough people want to take the vaccine. So they're saying, hey, Biden, why don't you guys pay the bill? That doesn't make any sense. And for them to suggest that this is something that everyone should take without yet having all the data.
He talked about the risk of harmful and fatal side effects from the shot and reinforced that studies show the vax can increase your chance of contracting COVID over time. Meanwhile, Marjorie Taylor Greene fighting to safeguard our social freedoms in the wake of rising COVID cases. She introduced a measure to prevent future federal mask mandates on air travel, public transit, and in schools. Thank God for that. The measure also prevents commercial airlines, public transit authorities, and schools from denying services to people that do not want to wear a mask. It's aptly called the, quote, Freedom to Breathe Act. So perfect.
Yes, it is. Joining us now with reaction is Dr. Paul Alexander, a former Trump administration official at the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. And Dr. Alexander is currently a senior advisor to the Wellness Company. So good to have you here on American Sunrise. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having you. And yes, I provide scientific support and advice to the Wellness Company with Dr. McCullough, Dr. Reish, etc.
Doctor, I have a hypothetical question for you. Having worked with President Trump and with hindsight being 2020, do you think President Trump might handle another pandemic differently than he did when COVID first hit?
Thank you for that question. And I will start by saying that I agree with DeSantis and Ladapo. There's no reason today for this new booster. It's based on a mice model. Variant is very mild, and the population is generally immune. So the approach right now is flawed and I think problematic. We have serious flags with this new booster. As for President Trump, well, I think the verdict is now out where we can see that what has happened is President Trump was greatly misled in his first administration by Fauci, Birx, the task force in general. I would say save Brett Girard. President Trump is not a medical doctor. He's not a scientist. Very smart guy. Very, very smart. But he relied on their counsel. And if we look at what happened across the pandemic for the 3 years, even up to today, between the lockdowns, the school closures, the business closures, all of the COVID policies we know today were flat wrong. None of them worked. And by the time they brought this mRNA gene injection, aka vaccine, we began to realize that the vaccine had failed out of the box, did not properly sterilize the virus, and it's causing people to become infected. And I think that's what the population needs to understand. It is not the virus, it's the vaccine that is driving infections in the population and the variants. And I think President Trump, with a second shot at bat, has understood. And I think I've seen recently he came out against lockdowns, which actually we were very grateful for. And we are actually talking to him behind the scenes. Persons like myself, etc., we are talking to his handlers, to his orbit, as to what the messaging has to be, which is he is going to take a hard stance against the lockdown, and he is going to call into question these vaccines, because vaccines have not been safe and the vaccines have not worked. And President Trump 2.0 is a different president.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think you make a great point. And, look at countries like India, who provided an emergency kit for their population. I think that it cost them a total of around $30 to do that per family. And, of course, the spread didn't happen there. Instead of shutting down and masking and forcing compliance among their population, that's what worked. And, of course, this very dense population, we should take a lesson from that. And, in fact, the wellness company did take a lesson from that. And you can get your own emergency kit from the wellness company. Go to www.twc.health/voice today and you can order it. That's twc.health/voice. Use the promo code VOICE to save 10%.
Dr. Alexander, thank you so much. We want to send it over now to Terrance, who joins us at the news desk with more. Terrance?
Gina, Miranda, we want to shift gears a little bit from health to Second Amendment rights. Listen to this. Gun owners are up in arms this morning about the suspension of open and concealed carry laws by New Mexico Governor Michelle Grisham. She, of course, is a Democrat. This weekend, dozens of gun rights activists gathered in Old Town Albuquerque to voice their displeasure with Governor Grisham's 30-day suspension of open and concealed carry laws that went into effect. Many of them openly displayed their firearms in deliberate defiance of Grisham's decree. Joining us now with some insight are Stephanie Lord and John Block. Both of them are New Mexico State representatives. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
Good morning, Terrance.
So, Stephanie, let's start with you. It appears fundamentally that the governor's decree is unconstitutional at its base.
That is an understatement, and we were in complete shock. Well, we shouldn't be. You have to understand, this governor has a history of being a tyrant, and she has destroyed our state. We're literally the worst in everything. Worst in crime, worst in education. We have fentanyl problems, we have homeless problems. It's a complete disaster here. 5 years she has been in control, and she's trying to blame Representative Block and I for this when it's her who hasn't done anything. So what she did is she said, okay, crime is out of control. There is a lot of people using guns in Albuquerque. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the gun rights away of law-abiding citizens like yourself. And people got mad. And by the way, I was at that rally, and it was a beautiful display of civil disobedience.
Representative Block, the issue of crime is a real issue, but it seems like taking people's guns away, particularly under claims of that being unconstitutional, isn't addressing the real issue of crime.
Absolutely. And during the press conference where the governor actually announced this draconian, unconstitutional measure, what she said to the press was she knew that these crazy people who are criminals absolutely are not going to be following the laws to begin with. She knew that from the get-go. So now, We have a governor coming out saying, let's take your guns away. And we just have this crisis happening in New Mexico. It's a constitutional crisis. And that's why we're working hard to hold her accountable in any way that we possibly can.
So I understand that one of the ways you plan to hold her to account is by seeking impeachment. But even before we get to that, how do you reverse this decree from the governor that's not only, and again, I say this on its face, appears to be unconstitutional, but also seems to be overreaching? Stephanie?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the bills that we presented, and we actually had Democrat support, was during COVID, her overreach then. I mean, we barely just got rid of our mask mandate. She loves the control. This woman is an absolute tyrannical dictator. She loves control. We tried to take it back from her. She said, absolutely not. So step one is we're going through the impeachment route. There's 6 lawsuits that are happening. We're trying to do everything we can to let her know what she's done is wrong. And I'm very appreciative that the sheriffs, district attorneys, even Senator Hyder, David Hogg, of all people, says she's gone too far. And she hasn't gotten the message. Today she attacked us again saying, oh, well, we don't have any solutions. Guess what? We presented a ton of solutions. The problem is she's a tyrant and does not want to lose her control.
All right, Stephanie, hold that thought about solutions because I do want to get to that. But, John, what's the long game here? What's the end game? It appears that just focusing on this 30-day taking away of gun rights, that seems to be so surface. It seems like there's got to be more down the road here.
Absolutely. With this governor, Terrance, she has done everything possible during her governorship to take away the rights of law-abiding citizens. We saw this during COVID. We've seen this throughout her tenure. Whenever she didn't get her way, she would demand a special session and ram through bills to ensure that she got whatever she wanted. And like Representative Lord said, she is a tyrant. She is acting like a little dictator. And the long game here is that if this stands in New Mexico, if she's not held accountable in New Mexico, then this gives free rein to every dictator-like tyrant around the country, such as Gavin Newsom, Kathy Hochul, other radical Democrat governors, to do just this and to really just destroy our constitutional rights by using an emergency order. This is something that we've seen happen before, but this is the most blatant use of these orders, and we will hold her accountable.
Representative Block, it sounds like you're going to have to draw a line in the sand, but does this set precedent? It starts with guns. Could it set precedent for other things?
Yes, it absolutely starts precedent for everything. She said in the press conference that no right is absolute. What she said was that her constitutional oath was not absolute. And so if no right is absolute, then it's free rein to run roughshod over every single law-abiding citizen in the entire state.
And
if
what's
no right
next?
is absolute, then anarchy is absolute. Go ahead.
Sorry, I get excited about this topic because Representative Block and I have been working on this since Friday. Imagine what's next. What if she says freedom of speech? And then you can no longer have your show in New Mexico because she says, oh, no, we don't want to hear that kind of speech. So what's next? Where is the end game? Where is she going? Because either she's willfully defiant and she's breaking the law, or she doesn't have the mental capacity to understand what she's doing or to understand her oath.
Oh, I suspect we all believe she knows exactly what she's doing. Representative Lord, I'm going to give you the last word. You talked earlier about solutions to these issues. What are some of the solutions being considered?
Okay, so she keeps coming after us saying we don't have solutions. We presented so many on the Republican side. We had so many bills. So we don't have bail really in the state. We don't like to hold people behind bars because that's not fair. So we said, no, we need to keep the worst of the worst behind bars. Even the Burlington County Sheriff said it the other day, we need to stop letting these people out in the community. We had increased penalties. We had all kinds of things that we had presented. The other issue we have is she's not looking at what other cities are doing. Why is she going and saying we're going to strip the Constitution when there are other cities that are doing things that are successful? Copy their model. Let's get going. Let's work on the crime issue. But she doesn't want to. It's all about the control for her. She doesn't want solutions.
Representative Lord, Representative Block, we appreciate it. I apologize, but unfortunately, we're up against the clock. We will have you guys back to continue this conversation. Let's try to schedule it for 30 days from now once all of this is settled. All right. Well, up next, folks, it is time to stay awake and not woke. We're talking about our National Archives and the state of our education system. Those stories are ahead as American Sunrise continues.
right, you know what that means. It's time for Stay Awake, Not Woke, sponsored by our good friends over at Beard Vet Coffee. BeardVet.com is the place to go. Gina already has, what is this, your first or second cup?
Second
cup, yeah. She just can't get enough of it. Use that promo code RAV, and you're going to save yourself 10%, and every little bit counts. First up, a closer look at the self-proclaimed nonpartisan agency that sparked President Trump's first indictment. Again, there are 4. Shows that first one that it actually leans left in a big way. I know you're all shocked.
Yeah.
Check out this story. So our partners over at Just the News lay out the evidence indicating that the National Archives has gone woke at your taxpayer expense. The agency has embraced ideology around gender and race, and it has been unwilling to hand over records of Joe Biden to investigators. Nonpartisan, yeah, right, not likely. In its 2022 budget request, the agency asked Congress for more than $28 million and nearly 150 new staff to, quote, advance racial equity and support undeserved communities like themselves. I'm sorry, I just added that. It's now facing scrutiny from the House Republicans that are investigating Hunter Biden's overseas business and Joe Biden's role in it. So, David, I want to welcome you back to the conversation. You looked unfazed by this being in D.C. I mean, the National Archives has gone woke. Shocker, right?
Yeah, and the thing is that we're supposed to believe it's this reputable organization. It's just insane that it's even doing that, for sure. But here's the thing. It was at least a year ago, and Trump called this out at the time. But the National Archives put up this whole website devoted to this idea that they might have to update some documents, some descriptions, because they're racist or sexist or xenophobic, misogynistic. I mean, all of this. So now we wait for the other shoe to drop. What other documents, ladies and gentlemen, are going to be updated now? Are they going to now change the certain founding documents because they're a bit insensitive? I mean, come on. I mean, this is the type of stuff we're dealing with.
Doesn't it seem like because it's the National Archives, there should be historical context, there should be historical perspective, right, David? And I say this as a graduate of the University of Maryland, which is actually home to the National Archives. I'm a little embarrassed to admit that, but hey, I'm a Terp for life. But to my point, though, historical context is everything, is it not, David?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And I'll be honest, on a personal note, I'm glad my daughter, who went to the University of Maryland, College Park, majored in history. And I know people are like, oh, a history major? Come on, give me a break. No. I think actually a history major is great if you have the proper grounding and you're not sucked in by the liberals in college. And, of course, that is a major undertaking. Praise God that she came out alive on the other end. And not only she came out more conservative after being a history major at the University of Maryland College Park because she realized the insanity of what they're teaching at higher education colleges around the country.
This segment brought to you by the University of Maryland at College Park.
That's right.
Wow,
send me a check. Send Terrance a check.
There's a bonding right there.
We
Love
are bonding.
That.
We are bonding.
Love that.
Terp
well, my
bonding.
mom had an education/history degree, but it didn't work for her. Wrong school, apparently. Yeah. There you go.
I think it was David's teaching. It was a parental teaching.
I think he had a lot to do with that.
Caused her to be able to have critical thinking, Miranda, and to be able to critique what the university was forcing down her throat. Yeah. All right, up next, newly unearthed and of biblical proportions, literally the actual steps where Jesus himself walked and healed a blind man have been found. An amazing discovery for the faithful, 2,000 years in the making. Right back.
I can't wait to see this.
I know, it's amazing.
one that reaffirms our belief that Jesus Christ did indeed walk the earth. Take a look at this headline. Steps where Jesus walked and healed a blind man unearthed for the first time in 2,000 years. The project in Jerusalem has unearthed steps unseen in over 2,000 years at a place where the New Testament records Jesus having healed a blind man. The Israel Antiquities Authority, the Israel National Park Authority, and the City of David Foundation early this year announced that the Pool of Siloam, a biblical site cherished by Christians and Jews, will be open to the public for the first time in 2,000 years in the near future. Now, in recent weeks, the archaeologists unearthed 8 steps descending into the pool, which had not been seen in 2,000 years, around the time when Jesus walked the earth. This is the very site, by the way, where Jesus allegedly healed the blind man in the Gospel of John. You can look it up. And a stroke of luck revealed the pool in 2004 when infrastructure work carried out by the Hagahan Water Company uncovered some of the pool steps. One of the really interesting things, people think, well, how do they know? How do they know? If you really look at the Bible, everything from the temple to the place of Jesus' birth, one of the common misnomers if you go to the Holy Lands is they take everybody to this Church of the Holy Sepulchre. And they say this is where Christ was buried. Well, if you actually read in the Bible, you'll find that there is a place where he actually was buried. I recorded all of this when I went on my little photojournalistic tour of Israel. And it isn't the Church of the Holy Sepulchre because it very quickly describes that there are 3 roads that diverge together. One goes here, one goes there, one goes to the other. They describe, the big skull at Golgotha. We've all read about that. That's right there, like a certain distance away. And you can see the tomb, and it's right next to a cistern in the garden at Gethsemane. And so there's no reason why it would be across town at the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, but they sell a lot of tours. And I mean this in the nicest way, but certain denominations, maybe Catholic, make a lot of money doing tours in Israel of holy places that actually don't fit sometimes with what the Bible actually says in terms of measurements and features like gardens, like cisterns, like cliffs, like certain roads, right? But if you actually go there, anybody wants to know, if you want to know where Jesus was actually buried, I actually had my pastor explain this to me before I went, and I was really glad he did because you don't want to go to the wrong place. So it's no surprise to me that they can find this given demarcations that are very well outlined in the Bible.
But do you think it's accurate? Do you think that this new place is accurate?
When archaeologists do it, yes. I have a little bit less trust when people are setting up tourist spots. I'm just saying. And not that the Church of the Holy Sepulchre is absolutely beautiful and amazing to see, but it's different. You probably knew this, David.
Yeah, well, the Israel Antiquities Authority is really the renowned expert in the region, and they go by carbon dating. And so they're going to actually be able to tell. When I say tell, I'm using the word like literally because there are tells underground, right? You have to keep digging until you get to the civilization that was lost. And then, of course, you have the carbon dating, and that's what they do. And, our pastor used to say the more they dig up out of the ground, the more they prove the Bible is true. And it's absolutely true. Not to hawk a product, but my wife actually, I married up. She has a master's in biblical studies. She wrote a book called Etched in Stone, Archaeological Discoveries That Prove the Bible is True. And in that book, she actually, it's fascinating because there are secular commentators, people that are not Christian, that can't deny the evidence. They say, yeah, actually, this is true. And we're not looking to prove the Bible. We're looking to disprove it. So it's really fascinating. And it just shows that God is on the throne.
Well, when you do come to Palm Beach, I would like a signed copy of your wife's book. Because I would really like to read that. I'm happy to pay for it. I would just love to have a copy of that.
Actually, David, I don't want a book. I want to talk to your wife when you come to Palm Beach. I want to sit down and have a conversation.
There you go.
Confirmed.
Most people want to talk to them.
Yes. Stand by. Just the News is John Solomon next. Coming up on the second hour of American Sunrise, Joe Biden's big blunder, missing ground zero by almost 4,000 miles on the 22nd anniversary of the worst terror attack on American soil. John Solomon here with the expected fallout.
So what is Secretary Pete Buttigieg hiding? A case of document stonewalling over FAA planes that he flew on with your tax dollars. It's a case of cash wasted and environmental hypocrisy. It's coming up.
And if you're feeling pain at the pump, well, you're not alone, and chances are the hurt is going to last a long time. Those stories and much more all ahead as the second hour of American Sunrise starts right now.
We've got your back as you start your day.
You are articulating what the majority of Americans feel today, and I really appreciate that you do.
Y'all tell the truth.
You guys are our voice.
Watch that morning while getting ready for work.
And 1 hour down, one to go. I'm Dr. Gina, my good friend Miranda Khan. I like to refer to her as Miranda Conda by my side.
Thank you so much, Gigi. That's her nickname as well. And of course, we have T. Bates, the one, the only, in the studio with us. I'm so happy you're here. We all are.
It's hard because he's just across the room, but we show him at the desk. But we're telling you behind the scenes that he's right over here, and we just are so excited that he's here on set.
Here I am. There we go.
There we are.
I was like, okay, where are we going? Here I am. Ladies, good to see you guys. First of all, I just want you to know this is our new studio. Beautiful.
Isn't it beautiful? How proud are we of our RAV team for what they accomplished?
I am so proud. Love to be here.
Yeah.
In fact, I've already called the wife and kids and told them, Daddy ain't coming back home. Daddy's in paradise. I'm not coming back home.
You just have to bring him next time.
Bring him next time, for sure.
All right, we now want to also welcome in David Brody. I know you're probably feeling a little left out, but that's all right. He's going to come down and bring his family as well as her books.
Just
writing your list for you.
I am. It's a love fest down there in West Palm Beach. I'm not part of the love fest. I'm in the swamp. I'm a swamp monster. And everybody has a nickname. You know, Gigi, we got T. Bates, we got Miranda Khan, the whole thing. And I'm like, I don't know what I am, but I need a nickname, clearly. So let me think that through. Swamp monster.
I've got one. I've got one.
Terrance, yes.
Oh,
yes,
I love
Terrance.
This. You guys are going to brace yourselves. Ladies,
Ready?
Here it is.
Okay.
Mr. Mac.
Mr. Mac, yes!
Mac, he wears the Mac makeup. Mr. Mac.
Ooh, okay.
Mr. Mac, thank you.
Because he pointed out, in case the audience happened to not be watching one morning, he pointed out to us that the makeup that he's become so famous for on this program is the woke brand Mac. So we've given him merciless harassment about this, as I'm sure you all have as well, and we appreciate you helping us in that.
I've been called worse on social media. Thank you so much. So I'll take that. I'll take that.
Haven't we all, David?
Yes, we have.
Mr. Mack, we appreciate you being here. Let me get you updated on some quick headlines so we can get it back over to you, because we've got an interesting interview coming up with John Solomon here. The U.S. House is back at work this morning, and Speaker Kevin McCarthy reportedly prepared to launch an impeachment inquiry against President Biden. He's set to meet with House Judiciary Chairman Jim Jordan and House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer in a closed meeting on Thursday. McCarthy is said to believe that an impeachment was the next step following a slew of investigations into the current president. While McCarthy can call for an impeachment inquiry, he'll have to have 218 House Republicans on board and ready to vote authorize that inquiry. Notably, Colorado Representative Ken Buck and Nebraska Representative Don Bacon, who are both Republicans, have been skeptical. There's also a lot at stake here for McCarthy, as prominent Republican Matt Gaetz is threatening to push for McCarthy's removal if he doesn't move forward with an impeachment or at least an inquiry. Brace yourself, because a new campaign to try and convince you to get a COVID booster shot is coming your way. On Monday, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration approved supposed updated COVID-19 vaccines from Pfizer and Moderna. The authorization comes in advance of today's CDC advisory panel meeting, during which the agency is expected to recommend who should receive these updated vaccines. The new Pfizer-Moderna shots target the COVID XBB 1.5 variant of the virus. Health officials say the current dominant variant nationwide, though, is EG.5, which makes up just over 21% of cases. The variant targeted by these These latest shots reportedly makes up less than 10% of cases today. And parts of Massachusetts remain under a state of emergency right now following a round of what's being described as life-threatening flash flooding. Heavy rainfall overnight washed away roads and left homes and businesses underwater, as you can see here. Schools in Leominster, Mass. are closed for the day, as some of them are being used as shelter right now. The National Weather Service is also encouraging everyone in that area to move to higher ground and not to try to travel unless they are fleeing the area. That's a quick check of your headlines. I'll have economic headlines coming your way shortly. Ladies?
Well, Terrance,
Thanks so much, Terrance.
Appreciate it.
Gentleman,
Listen, we have
sorry.
Gentleman, thank you. Mr. Mack, got it. Look, John Solomon is going to be here in just moments because he's got a couple of breaking news stories out. John always has stories breaking. It's like it's his life. This latest one here has to do with House investigators actually now demanding from the State Department all evidence from Joe Biden's dealings with the fired Ukrainian prosecutor over there. And so they're going to want those documents. We're going to get more on that in a moment. And also, John, over at Just the News, has a story up today about the feds receiving waves of warning about Hunter Biden, but delivering no consequences. Literally from 2015, several federal agencies were alerted to suspicious activity and potential criminal activities by Hunter Biden each time. The allegations, by the way, did not result in any consequences for Hunter Biden. Why is that? Let's bring in John Solomon here. John, always good to see you. Let's start with the breaking news about the House investigators demanding information from the State Department regarding Joe Biden and the firing of the Ukrainian prosecutor. Tell us more about it.
Yeah, listen, this just happened a few minutes ago. House Oversight Committee Jane Comer has asked the State Department to surrender all documents about why the State Department changed its policy to allow Joe Biden to request or demand the firing of Viktor Shokin, the Prosecutor General, the Attorney General of Ukraine, in 2015, at a moment when Shokin was investigating Burisma and Hunter Biden, the company that Hunter Biden got paid millions for in Ukraine. Now, what happened? Let's go through where we were, because a little history is required here. In 2019, when I first reported this became a topic during the impeachment trial of President Trump. And during that trial, you heard Joe Biden and his defenders say, yeah, I did fire the prosecutor for the firing of the prosecutor. Yes, I did withhold $1 billion in U.S. loan guarantees, but I didn't do it because the prosecutor was investigating my son's company. I was doing it because career officials told me that's the policy they want. Well, last week, we made public documents showing that that's not what career officials wanted. In fact, the career officials at the State Department, Treasury Department, and Justice Department recommended that Joe Biden give the $1 billion loan guarantee and keep Shokin. So this sudden change in policy, which had been sustained as a story for a long time, now a great interest to investigators. There's another reason. The FBI had an informant in 2020 that came in and said Joe Biden was paid $10 million to help take care of this prosecutor, get rid of him, sandbag him. So the combination of all these new facts has really reopened a storyline that we thought we had settled back in the 2019 impeachment. These documents are due back to the Congress at the end of September.
John, we know that Hunter Biden is renting a new, very exclusive home. I believe it's in Malibu, California. We know that Hunter Biden, travels first class and lives quite the life. But where is all of this money? Where has it all gone? This is so much money that it would seem really difficult to cover for it.
Yeah, well, listen, he had a complicated life. He used a lot of drugs. He paid for a lot of prostitutes. That's in public now. That's known. We see the wire transfers of the thing. He essentially spent away a lot of this money that he got. He admits that in his book. He admits that in interviews. And the bank records substantiate that. In fact, the reason that all these investigations began was because there was an IRS investigation of a porn and prostitution ring, and Hunter Biden's financial transactions showed up there. And that's what sort of triggered all this, according to the IRS whistleblowers that surfaced earlier this year. So he blew a lot of money on a very debaucherous lifestyle by his own description of it. The real question is, did Joe Biden get any benefit from this money? We know there are little hints of it on the laptop that the FBI seized in 2019. There are bills being paid by Hunter Biden. There's a text message from Hunter Biden to one of his relatives saying, I had to give up half of my money to Joe Biden. Now, the question is, can they find that money trail? That is the big goal right now. There are two things going on. Is there a money trail to Joe Biden? And now, did Joe Biden really change policy to get rid of a prosecutor to benefit his son? If those two things are corroborated, I think you'll see House Republicans move towards impeachment in the next few weeks.
Well, speaking of which, Kevin McCarthy, of course, Speaker of the House, is supposed to announce an impeachment inquiry today amid mounting pressure from several Republicans, including Matt Gaetz. So I want to ask you, will he get the support that he needs to do that? And what do you think the likelihood is that there's going to be a government shutdown?
My reporting suggests that if he were to hold a vote to formally approve an impeachment inquiry, he would be 8 or 9 votes short. And so he may announce that they're doing it without a vote and that they'll hold the vote later after more evidence comes up. This is a tricky tap dance, but it is kind of remarkable in light of all the evidence that has now been surfaced in just the last 8 months from Jim Jordan and James Comer. The fact that the president lied repeatedly during 2020, things are now proven that he said were false, that they claimed the laptop was disinformation when it was a very legitimate laptop, that that the firing of the prosecutor actually wasn't U.S. policy, it actually was the opposite of U.S. policy. It's remarkable that the Republicans themselves don't have their own votes behind an impeachment inquiry. It means that they have a bigger job to tell a narrative better or to find new evidence. That's what it means.
John Solomon, great to have you on the show. Mr. Breaking News, there he is again. That is your title, and it's a great one. I appreciate it. All right, when we come back, time to drain the swamp. We do that a lot here on the show, and for good reason. The left says the shift to clean energy will give a cleaner planet, but hold on, how much does that matter if even the White House's electric vehicle drivers are fighting dirty? We'll explain. Also, Hunter Biden isn't the only part of the White House that likes to fly private. Mayor Pete Oigavolt is a fan too. Talk about hypocrisy. We're back with those stories in a moment on American Sunrise.
Sponsored by Sea of Mud, seaofmud.com. Use promo code RAV1776 for 15% off. This company is a rural American patriotic apparel company. American made, as I said. They have much more than shirts. They have knives, drinkware. Terrance got his favorite bikini there.
Did you
get it?
Yes, I'm wearing it now.
Oh.
Yes. Yes, I feel so comfortable.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
I feel free.
People at home are like, what? No, trust us. Great company. And, you know, you want to support these small mom and pop businesses that share the same values as all of us, right? So let's go to our swamp story of the day. You ready? So the radical environmentalist left says the shift to clean energy will give us a cleaner planet. But how much does that matter if even the White House's electric vehicle drivers are fighting dirty? So check this out. On an EV road trip to promote green tech, the U.S. Energy Secretary and her entourage couldn't find enough electric vehicle chargers. So one employee from the Department of Energy ran ahead in a gas-powered car and parked in front of one of the charging stations to block others from using it so the Energy Secretary could pull right up to use it. Isn't that nice? One desperate family who needed to charge the family car called the police. And on this very hot day in Georgia, this family was left waiting. The cops couldn't help because, well, there is no law in Georgia against parking in front of an electric vehicle charging station. But still, I mean, this is just so elitist, is it not, David? I mean, it's like, geez. And this just proves the problem. That people do not support this whole idea of electric cars. We don't have the infrastructure. If you can't even find a place to charge, that you have to leave out a family because you're above them.
That's right. You hit the key point there, Miranda. We don't have the infrastructure, and that's been proven in the statistics. I mean, electric vehicle purchases are up like 65%. More people are purchasing electric vehicles. The problem is that the charging stations, the infrastructure, is woefully behind. I mean, woefully behind. So you're going to have these problems. And it was PBS, or NPR, excuse me, NPR that actually reported that story. And so even the liberals at NPR saw exactly what was happening. But this is the type of problem that the left is trying. The left loves to do this. The left loves to cram stuff down our throat, whether it be an emergency. If it's an emergency, great. That's more power for them. But even if it's not an emergency, they try to create some sort of, chaotic environment to get more people to a place where, we really shouldn't need to be right now, at least.
Yeah, and that's saying a lot when you said NPR. You know how they say it like this. It's very soothing.
But David, really quickly, it just seems so funny that in order to try to make a point, the administration has to send a gas-powered car ahead to help keep the EV on the road.
Yeah, if you don't know, it's all a show. Before now, this ought to tell you it's all a show. It's not real what the administration does. Everything is just about a performance to fool and lie to the American people, believing they're dumb enough to believe it.
Right, but this goes right to AOC and back to the Green New Deal and how they want to cut down on cows because they, how do I say this? All right, I'll just say the word, they fart. And so this is what they do. I'm sorry, toot? Should I say toot? I'm sorry. But the point is that this is what the left does. They want us all to take trains to California now, horse and buggy, no airplanes? This is what they want.
Yeah, my grandma used to say it's nothing but a hoodwink and a bamboozle. That's next.
Right, Grandma.
Grandma Bates, hoodwink and a bamboozle. Up next, if you're feeling pain at the pump, well, you're not alone. Gas prices are up, and get ready for this, folks. Those high prices may be with us for quite some time. We'll have the details next when American Sunrise continues.
back, everybody. It's nice to have Terrance Bates in West Palm Beach with us because usually we have to toss all the way out to Denver for headlines. But this week, we have you right here. They keep running you back and forth. It's like you're over there, you're over here, you're over there, you're over here. We like you here.
Well, I appreciate it. I like being over there. By the time I'm done here, I'll probably be down 20 pounds as much moving as they got me doing. But hey, I won't say anything bad about that. I could stand to lose a couple of pounds. Well, folks, if you're hoping for less pain at the pump, it may actually be some time until that happens. Our partners at Just the News are reporting oil prices have hit a 9-month high amid supply concerns. And not helping matters here, Saudi Arabia and Russia are extending their supply cuts, so much so that they're putting the economic squeeze on President Putin. On average, most of us are spending more than $3.80 a gallon, and our reserves are quickly being depleted because the Biden administration is dipping into them in order to keep oil prices down. All right. Let's throw this over to David now, who's standing by in Washington, D.C. with some other big news making headlines this morning. And David, I can only imagine what you guys are paying there in the nation's capital for gas. Having lived there, I know it's typically a bit more expensive than most other places in the country.
Yeah, you know, anytime it's under $4, we're like, hey, it's only $3.89. And it's like, oh, my gosh, where's Trump? Where's Trump when you need him? You're right. But there's a lot of folks, Terrance, that are wondering, well, they know that the economy is bad. The problem is that the Biden administration continues to tell us the economy is just going along great, strong. Take a look at this CNN headline that we found. Yes, we had to go to the CNN website. Why Biden's strong economy feels so bad to most Americans. So we want to get into that because as I look at these statistics, the majority, about 58%, say Biden's policies have made economic conditions worse, according to a CNN poll. Well, here with the take on all of this is Michael Wilkerson, a strategic advisor and investor, author, and the founder of Stormwall Advisors. Michael, good to have you here. So what's going on here? We hear from the Biden administration that the numbers look great, and Americans go, you're kidding me, right? I just went to the grocery store and I went out to Red Lobster.
David, thank you. Americans aren't fooled by the government statistics. They feel the reality, the pain at the pump. If you look back over 3 years, gas is up over 70%, electricity over 25%, food over 20%. This is the reality. This is what Americans live with. All of the so-called disinflation coming down from 9% last June, a year ago, to 3% this year, it was all about gas prices, oil prices, I should say, going down. Well, now they're going back up, and with them will come inflation again, going back up where it was before.
Yeah, before I want to get to inflation in a moment, but I also want to talk about unemployment. I am sick and tired of the Biden administration continuing to tout these unemployment numbers. I think it's at 3.5% or so now. It was at 6.3% when he came into office. Hey, Joe and Biden administration, it was 6.3% because we were in COVID. We were starting to come out of COVID. People were starting to then open up their doors. And yet the Biden administration is taking credit for some great policies on their part. No, it was just part of the natural process that was going on post-COVID. How do you see it?
Well, I see two things. One, the reopen that you just described coming out of lockdowns was a natural effect. But the other thing, just like with inflation data, CPI, the jobs data is being fudged. It does not represent reality. If you lose a full-time, well-paying job and have to take 2 part-time jobs at 80% of the wages, are you better off? Of course not. And Americans know that, although the statistics would say, oh, 2 jobs or net 1. It's not real.
Yeah, and speaking of statistics, let's go back to inflation. 18%, according to statistics, we see 18% prices are up. Food prices are up since 2019, since the Trump administration, and also pre-COVID too. And that seems to be the biggest part of the disconnect here as to why the Biden administration can tout some numbers, but the numbers are not jiving with the reality when people walk into the grocery store or honestly gas and many other items.
70% of all food in this country is distributed by truck. Those trucks are fueled by diesel, fueled by gas, whatever it may be. So when you see over that same period of time, since 2000, energy prices, oil prices up 80-some%, gas up 70% at the pump, the natural knock-on consequences, it affects everything. the food that we eat, the power to drive the electricity to our homes, all of this is being driven by the energy markets, which in turn has been impacted by geopolitical events, the sanctions regime that has driven prices up. And of course, Biden has tried to address this by draining our strategic petroleum reserve, our lifeline in the event of an actual national emergency.
Yeah, and also there's the housing market too, Michael. I mean, look, full disclosure, I'm trying to get a house down in Florida. Okay, part-time. I'm still going to be up here in the Socialist Republic area of the D.C. area, but I'm trying to get a house in Florida. Are you kidding me? These prices are insane, and it's 7.5% interest rate. So I'm just looking everywhere you turn, whether it be the housing market, gas, inflation, the job numbers that you talked about. This seems to be the disconnect. I've got about 30 seconds or so.
So we see it another impact in that consumers are trying to keep up with everything, housing, all these other costs we've talked about. How are they doing it? Taking on credit card debt, draining their savings at the lowest rate now ever. At the point, housing prices have gone up. We have a lot of free money to the corporate sector, private equity and otherwise, buying up single-family homes now, squeezing out Americans who are trying to work for a living and store value for themselves and for their children. And this is part of the problem.
Michael Wilkerson, thanks for being here. Really appreciate it. And you did that answer in 28 seconds, which is very impressive. We TV official personalities like that. All right, time for economic headlines. Terrance Bates in Denver. Terrance, sponsored by AMAC.
The Association of Mature American Citizens is the conservative voice for Americans 50 and older. AMAC is fighting for the values that you hold dear. Join today. Together, we can write the course of America.
So we're back with your financial and economic headlines. The markets are not open quite yet. They'll be opening here shortly. The opening bell will ring here in just a minute. I can tell you the future's not looking good. All of them in the red right now. The Dow Jones, the S&P 500, the NASDAQ, all down to start trading this morning, and we shall hear the opening bell coming up here in just seconds and then see if there's a change once the markets officially open. In fact, you can see on the left-hand side of your screen, the folks getting ready. We'll hear the clapping here momentarily, and then within minutes of that, the actual bell will start to ring. Yeah, I think they're clapping right there. And the bell has apparently sounded, so the markets are now open. Let's see if we can get an update on the situation there as my phone continues to load. All right, unfortunately, not much of a change from the futures. Again, the Dow, the S&P 500, the NASDAQ, all still in the red, but we still do have a full day of trading ahead, so hopefully all of that will change here in the next couple of hours. In the meantime, it is down to the wire for lawmakers on Capitol Hill to make a move in order to avoid a government shutdown. The U.S. House is back at work this morning after several weeks off. There's dissension in the ranks, though, as Republicans are split on spending cuts and potentially allowing a government shutdown if there's no movement on an impeachment inquiry. The current government funding expires on September 30th. So far, the House has only approved one of 12 spending bills that are believed to be able to pass in both the House and the Senate. There's also talk about passing a continuing resolution, which is basically a temporary funding bill that would buy time for both chambers to reach some sort of long-term deal. Well, there's an organization that still backs Obamacare, gun control, and extreme transgender policies that endanger our kids. They claim to be bipartisan, but last year, 95% of their donations went to Democrats. AARP doesn't represent the values of American seniors. Fortunately, there's a conservative alternative, which is called AMAC. It's the Association of Mature American Citizens, and they proudly champion Americans' right to free speech, religious liberty, and the Second Amendment. AMAC depends and defends parents' rights to protect their children and is fighting to restore America's election integrity. With more than 2 million members nationwide, AMAC is pro-faith, pro-family, and pro-freedom. I'm proud to be an AMAC member, and I encourage you to join as well. Yes, I got a membership when I turned 50 earlier this month, so I am technically a mature American citizen, even though these bills I've been paying have said that I've been mature for quite some time. Let's send AARP a strong message, though, that they don't represent conservative seniors. Join AMAC today at amac.us/sunrise. That's AMAC, AMAC.u. not .u.s, but .us/sunrise, SUNRISE. I guess I had a mature American moment there for a minute. Well, coming up, 2024 is getting saucy, so don't miss it. That's next when we return.
its finest. It's red, white, and blue. Gotta get out and try it. Red State Barbecue. Red State Barbecue.
And welcome back to American Rise segment, of course, sponsored by our good friends over at Red State Barbecue. RedStateBarbecue.com is the website to check out. Use that promo code RAV10, and you're going to save yourself 10%.
Have the brand new apple bourbon flavor, or you can grab their classic flavors: Memphis sweet, Texas spicy. They have North Carolina, South Carolina local barbecue flavors, and even Alabama and Kentucky style barbecue sauce. RedStateBarbecue.com, promo code RAV10 for your 10% off.
All right, as we've been reporting, it appears more and more voters are losing their taste for Biden. Maybe it's because of moments like this one, where Biden appeared yet again to be dazed and confused during a press conference in Vietnam.
And let's see. I'll just follow my orders here. Staff, if anybody hasn't spoken, I ain't calling on you. How come I said I have 5 questions? Anita, BOA.
Wow, talk about clueless. Well, these Biden blunders are definitely taking a toll. The Real Clear Politics average shows that Biden's disapproval rating at nearly 55%. But if you think that's bad, take a look at the most recent poll. This one is by CBS News, one of the mainstream media outlets. It shows Biden's disapproval rating climbing to a whopping 60%. What's most troubling about this, though, is he's losing independents and bigly. We just showed you a sneak peek of that. Just the News broke this down, showing that 80% of this critical bloc disapprove of Biden's performance. 80%.
I mean, where's the performance? I mean, that literally, he can't even read anymore. He can't talk. When he gets sleep deprived, and I mean, we all get a little goofy when we get sleep deprived, but he goes completely dark.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Apparently, the SOS signal went out because a PAC supporting Biden knows it. Take a look at how it hopes to win you over.
People that try to shut down their company, lay off a whole bunch of people, and they take their manufacturing to China. This shouldn't be happening. Joe Biden's Inflation Reduction Act and the CHIPS Act are keeping jobs in America and bringing jobs back to America. It's putting Americans to work. Good jobs mean dignity, healthcare day one, retirement, and a livable wage. It's bringing a lot of good paying jobs for a lot of people to support their families.
Yeah, right. In an alternate universe. Yeah, so the election is more than 400 days away, and this $12 million ad buy, it's a little over that actually, is much earlier than most ad buys. So, David, what does that say about how desperate Democrats are right now?
Yeah, they're in trouble. They know it, and they're coming out early with what they can. And here's the problem. That is the most tone-deaf ad I think I've ever seen. I've covered politics over 30 years. I mean, that is a majorly tone-deaf ad. I mean, that's like saying, Joe Biden won the Pulitzer Prize for intelligence. I mean, it's just as bad. So anyhow, listen, here's the problem with Joe Biden. It's not just independents. Independents, he's had a problem with them since Afghanistan. But also the problem is that he's down 16% at least, maybe even a little bit more with Gen Z. And if you're going to be in trouble with Gen Z, then you really have problems. It's not just independents. I think the Gen Z vote is also a real big warning sign for the Biden administration.
David, I see your Gen Z and raise you Democrats themselves. He is also losing favor with Democrats. When the Democrats are jumping ship on you and you're the sitting president, that spells disaster for a re-election bid. That's huge.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, speaking of saucy, how lost in the sauce was Joe Biden yesterday. Take a look at this headline. Joe Biden to lead national 9/11 remembrances from Alaska. Biden was about 3,400 miles from ground zero in New York City after coming back from a trip to Vietnam. I mean, Speaking of tone deaf, this is just ridiculous. Joining us now, Caroline Leavitt, spokeswoman for Make America Great Again. Caroline was a former congressional candidate and assistant White House press secretary for President Trump. Welcome to the show. Caroline, who decided it was a good idea for Joe Biden to skip out of the country altogether for 9/11 and then show up in Alaska?
You know, I don't know who made that decision. I'd like to say that it's just bad optics and it was a mistake, but how many bad optics and horrible situations can you put yourselves in until you realize it's not just incompetence? This is nefarious behavior from the Biden White House. This is putting America last. They don't care about the American people. They don't care about the families that lost loved ones 22 years ago on in the worst terrorist attack on our homeland. They don't care about the residents of East Palestine, a town in Ohio that Biden hasn't visited yet. And when he was asked about that recently, what did he say? He said, "Oh, I've been busy. I've had a lot to do. I've been all over the place." He's spent 40% of his presidency on vacation, sitting on the beach in Delaware. He is a disgrace. And then when he was asked about the fires in Maui, where residents where their homes were destroyed, they lost everything, he said he had no comment. So this is a president that doesn't care about any of us. He doesn't care about this nation. The only thing he cares about is boosting his own pocketbook and collecting million-dollar wire transfers for he and his crackhead son and 9 of their grandchildren. The entire Biden family has profited off of Joe Biden's lies over the last several decades. And as you guys were just reporting, the American people are fed up with this. He is losing ground with every single voting demographic of Americans. And that's why they're scared as hell that it's going to be a rematch between Donald Trump and Joe Biden, because Donald Trump at this point in time has never been stronger, because people are realizing that he truly did care and does care about we, the American people, and he's fighting to make this nation better and stronger and more prosperous.
Well, Caroline, it was just very odd that he went to Alaska of all days, and Gina said the other day that maybe he was doing that to avoid making any blunders, but he still did it. So Joe lied about being at ground zero on 9/11. Take a look at what he had to say. I want to get your reaction when we come back.
Ground zero in New York. And I remember standing there the next day and looking at the building. I felt like I was looking through the gates of hell. It looked so devastating because from where you could stand.
He wasn't there. He was not there in New York. He was in D.C. And as Terrance reported earlier, he was on the Senate floor. Why does he continuously lie after lie after lie after lie to the American people, knowing full well we can show the clip? Oh, wait, there it is, right there on your screen.
He's a career politician, and that's all they do. They lie to continue colluding their own power and their own corruption and their own pocketbooks. But also, I don't think that it's more than just the lies, right? It's also the decline in Joe Biden's mental acuity and fitness. He says things a lot of times that are lies, but also quite puzzling. Like, where did that come from? Only someone that is suffering from Alzheimer's or dementia or aging and certainly not fit enough to lead the greatest nation in the history of the world, lead the free world. He doesn't have the competence to do that. It's very, very clear. And obviously, his White House staff and the First Lady, Joe Biden, shame on her, are definitely protecting him. You can see just their body language when he's speaking. They're very on edge. They're nervous. I can tell you, having been a staffer in President Trump's White House, in his press office, we watched him do press conferences almost every single day. There was no telling him when to slow down or where to go. He was on the ball. He knew what to say. He commanded the shots, and we all followed his lead. In this White House, it's the complete opposite. The staff is dictating Joe Biden. They are calling the shots, and he's just a puppet. And it's really just a shame for our nation. Of course, we're crumbling from within, but also our enemies taking advantage of us, sensing Biden's weakness. China and Russia, it's been recently reported they don't take his calls, and they didn't even show up for the recent summit in India because they don't take him seriously. And why should they when he's simply so weak? It's a shame.
Also, Joe Biden yesterday on 9/11 handed over $6 billion in exchange for Americans being held hostage in Iran. What a slap in the face to every American. This isn't his first time. It's absolutely disgraceful, but especially on that day and especially to the 9/11 families, Caroline.
Again, horrible optics from the Biden White House. This was a horrific deal. It wouldn't have mattered what day they released it on, but really you're going to do it on the day that our nation was attacked by Islamic terrorists. And then you send $6 billion to Iran. And as President Trump put out on his Truth Social this morning, $6 billion. We're talking with a B here. That is a heck of a lot of money. For what? We have the full leverage of our United States military and being the greatest superpower in the world. Use that to get our people home. You don't need to give them $6 billion. How much of that is going back to the Biden corrupt crime family? That's a question that House Republicans in the Congress should be asking and probing on. And it does nothing to deter Iran from holding American hostages in the future. They clearly won in this deal, and it's a shame for America, and it's a shame for future victims of the Iranian regime that hate America, literally chant death to America. And as President Trump also pointed out this morning, our administration, the Trump administration, he had 58 hostages return home, and we didn't send $1 out the door.
Yeah, and $6 billion can buy a lot of nukes, and this is an enemy of the United States we are talking about. So as this stuff starts to mount, you really get a dim picture of what this regime is outlining for us. Caroline Levitt, we thank you so much for being with us. Up next, it's time to spill some tea. In today's cup, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis in some shade supplied by President Trump. Stick around. It's a good one. It's ahead on American Sunrise.
Freedom-loving patriots are falling in love with America's barbecue sauce, Red State Barbecue. Red State's 8 different sauces are perfect for whatever sparks your barbecue palate. Visit redstatebbq.com. That's redstatebbq.com and use promo code RAV10 for 10% off.
Red State Barbecue.
Let's spill some tea.
And welcome back to American Sunrise. Of course, this segment sponsored by Artillery Tea Company, artilleryteaco.com. Use that promo code RAV and save yourself 10%.
Yeah, all natural, whole leaf. The tea bags are chemical free. Each tea bag can be used 2 times. Artillery Tea Company is family and veteran owned.
Yeah, it is. And a portion of your purchase, you're going to love this, actually goes to help veterans and first responder charity. So, you know, it's the gift that keeps on giving.
Right. Artilleryteaco.com, promo code RAV for 10% off.
All right, in today's cup, President Trump throwing a little shade at Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. So President Trump's big lead in the GOP polls, and it's bigly, means that his challengers aren't really a threat, let's be honest. But it doesn't mean that he will sidestep an opportunity, as we all know, for some friendly smack talk, right? So take a look at the story, Terrance. So Trump claimed Ron DeSantis, quote, sided with the communists in China and voted to cut Social Security. Now, his speech came during a rally in South Dakota, which you probably watched right here on Real America's Voice because we aired it live. But this is what he said as he recalled how he gave $28 billion from Chinese tariffs to American farmers, a move that he said DeSantis strongly opposed. So if you missed it, take a look.
Because I got him elected, so I call him Ron DeSanctimonious. He strongly opposed my protection for our farmers. I protected our farmers very simply. And by the way, those farmers got big checks. Any farmers in here got big checks? Yes? Yes. Oh, he's happy. But very simply, DeSantis sided with the communists in China, and he fought very hard that this not take place. He also opposed Medicare, and he opposed a thing called Social Security. Remember this about a politician. Their first idea is always what they go back to.
Throwing a little shade on the Sunshine Governor. So, Terrance, this primary election drama sure gives us a lot of great content, I would say.
You know what? And this is good politics, if you will, by President Trump. He's not taking any chances. Yeah, he's leading, as you said, bigly in the polls. Like, it's a done deal. He has won the nomination.
If it's a little bit, I mean, it's a lot.
It's huge. It's really a margin that's probably overwhelming. Nobody's going to catch up. But he's not taking any prisoners. He's not taking anything for granted. And Ron DeSantis, at this point, with Vivek Ramaswamy, probably the two closest candidates. And so he's not taking any prisoners. He's making sure that he secures this nominations by all means necessary.
Well, and I mean, he's not, as you said, he's not spilling on Ron DeSantis. I mean, on Vivek Ramaswamy, he's actually saying decent things about him. He personally takes it very personally that what DeSantis did, and he's talking about policy with him. Remember, the name calling in the last go round was personal. You know, little Marco and things like this is actually policy related. Everything he's talking about is also policy.
He's talking
related.
Policies, but
he's not letting the personal override. The fact that Vivek is the one closest trailing him, and he's saying nice things about Vivek, tells you he's not actually too concerned. Spilling more tea here on Karine Jean-Pierre. You'd think that as the White House press secretary, KJP has some, I don't know, press expertise. Just kind of thought that might be a prereq, but not in this case. Check out this story. White House reporters turned on KJP over her glitzy profile in the latest issue of Vogue that featured her wearing designer fashion and not much else. They said it lacked substance and that it, quote, shows just how out of touch the party is with the pain people are actually feeling right now, trying to make ends meet at the hands, by the way, of this regime. One senior media executive tweeted, quote, this seems like a good time to point out Melania Trump never appeared in Vogue while she was in the White House. So, yeah, there is that.
So I'm sorry, ladies, and I'm going to yield to you because, quite honestly, I don't read Vogue. But
really, I don't either, quite honestly. So maybe if that's the requirement for this comment,
maybe you read it.
Okay.
Like, was it really an expectation that there would be some substance coming out of a Vogue article? What I've read about this article is that it really focused largely on her recent split with her partner, Suzanne Malveaux, I think is her name, from CNN.
Suzanne. She likes to be called Suzanne.
Yeah, that's what I read. That's
Suzanne.
Really, yeah, that was really the focus of the article. It wasn't much substance. Were we expecting substance?
Not out of them. No, absolutely not.
But it is sad that the person who really modeled the First Lady was never featured on the cover while she was in the White House, and that Karine Jean-Pierre, who won't even actually answer questions.
You could put any of the Trumps on cover, and I'll tell you what, you'd have a cover. Do not even think about changing the channel or leaving the house just yet. Our next segment will leave you smiling and will reaffirm your faith in your neighbor. So keep it right here on American Sunrise.
Tired of the same old mass-produced, globalist-supporting tea companies? Artillery Tea Company is the Patriot source of natural premium tea. Visit artillerytco.com and use pro code RAV for 10% off.
Now it's time for a bit of sunny side up. Listen to
Love
this.
it. In summer, sunnier news. Yes, summer sunnier news. A California Costco worker was awarded Employee of the Month for showing his team something you just don't see every day. It's called integrity. Remember that? Here's the story. A Costco worker found a lost envelope in the warehouse holding nearly $4,000 in cash.
So he immediately alerted management, tracked down the owner with the Costco membership card and the envelope, and returned the money.
Wow.
What an amazing person. And here's what he said happened. He said he had set a goal for himself last month to just, I'm going to work hard. I'm going to keep a positive attitude so he could make Employee of the Month. And now he has it. David.